Maameefua Koomson. We're going to talk about social strategy and all that cool stuff. So,
Hey.
here I am.
Fun.
You should just be able to use like the arrows.
Perfect. I'm gonna turn off the audio just in case. Hey everybody, how are y'all doing? So as she mentioned, my name is Maameefua Koomson. I also go by Mommy for short. Yes, Mommy, don't make it weird. And I am the owner of Quirk-E Creative, which is an organic social media marketing agency based here in Baton Rouge. And basically we work with different brands. A lot of them are local, but we help them with their content creation, their strategy, just all things, those videos that you see on your timeline. Me and my team are the ones making them, and just building an online presence for, for the brands. So in this presentation, I'm going to be sharing a few different strategies and campaigns that I've done over the past 2 years. And, towards the end, if anyone has any questions or if I want to go back or get into more detail about any of the brands, please let me know. But we will hop right into it. Okay, so briefly a journey into my career. So I am a Baton Rouge native. I've been here my whole life. I also went to LSU and graduated in 2019, and I did creative writing. And so I didn't get my MBA in marketing until 2022. So when I graduated and I was kind of shifting careers, I actually thought I was going to be a professor and go into English and teach and all the things and write a book. I still kind of want to do that. But, that was kind of my plan. But then I took a gap year and was just working. And it wasn't until I went to a conference through the job I was at, and the guy who was over the marketing for Beats headphones was speaking, and he was just explaining all the stuff he was doing. And for some reason, that was my light bulb moment. Like, this man is getting paid to post online. Like, I could do that. I've been posting on social media my whole life. Like, I ran a fan page in middle school. Like, it was the whole thing. So I thought I could just get hired, and I couldn't get a job. The post-grad depression was real. I applied to like 60 different jobs. I could not get hired anywhere. I wasn't experienced enough. So I started freelancing because I was like, well, I'll just freelance and work for free, build my portfolio up, and then I'll be able to present myself to the agencies. Well, I girl bossed too hard and I built a company. So that is what I'm doing now full time. So it's really fun, and I'm excited to just share everything that we do. So what exactly do I do? Y'all would be surprised how many times I get asked that, including from my parents. They do not understand what I do, but I create custom strategies, like the actual brain behind why we do certain posts or why we film a certain way, as well as the content creation. So literally taking the pictures, editing them, all the fun part of making content, and then as well as managing the page and community building. So if you ever see your favorite brand reply to your comment, it's people like me that are doing those things. So those are all part of the stuff that I do day to day. But I also do some influencer marketing. So this is an example of one we did for our client, Mochi Nut in Baton Rouge off of Essen. So depending on what goals our clients may need, we'll bring in influencers. So this was one where we kind of decided like, okay, we want them to come in, try a little bit of everything. We asked them to post a reel to their audience and asked us if we can get content there. So this is an example of something that we would do. The goal was to just get awareness. So we brought in as many influencers as we could. We let them try any and everything they wanted, make content and post it in their own style so that we could get some new followers and stuff. And that was kind of the goal of that specific campaign. Another example of stuff we do are some seasonal campaigns. So this is Sweet Society. I don't know if some of y'all may be familiar with it. It's an ice cream shop on Government. I've been working with them in Boru Ramen for about 4 years now. And so this was one that we did in, help me out, Abby, 2022 maybe? They were celebrating their 3rd birthday. And so we wanted to do a whole campaign. And the difference with this one is that Sweet Society at this point already had a pretty large following. At the time, they had about 17,000 followers on Instagram. They're currently at like 24,000 now, but we didn't want to just do another giveaway online. It wasn't really the goal to grow followers. They wanted to get foot traffic. So we identified an item that a lot of people liked that they didn't have on the menu, which was this ube bread pudding. And so we were like, okay, well, let's do this whole series of, this is like our thoughts, a little snippet of like organizing and planning and the graphics. So we were like, okay, well, let's do punch cards and have people come in, and when they purchase it, they'll be able to enter to win a prize. Now, for me, I do it big. I really don't like giveaways personally. I don't like the whole tagging in this unless it's something worth it. So I told the owners, I was like, we need to give away something big. So we gave away 1 year of free ice cream and 6 months of free ramen, which AKA is just a big gift card. I stole the idea from Chick-fil-A when I realized what the free year of sandwiches was. They just give you a big like $500 gift card, but the amount quantifies to like, oh, if you got a sandwich once a week for a year. And so instead of us just saying, hey, gift card giveaway, it's a lot more enticing if you're like, oh, I can go to Sweet Society and eat for free for a year. Now you're like, okay, let me see what this giveaway is about. So that is what we did. It actually worked out because both gift cards were about $400 each. And we also tied in as far as like, okay, you have to get the ube bread pudding, you have to get the daifuku, and then you get a ramen dish. And so we picked 2 other items that we wanted to promote more. We knew people would naturally come in for their bread pudding alone, but this was a way to get people to be trying new items at the same time, and it got them in through the door. So the benefit of this one was a big increase in foot traffic, like I mentioned. They already had a big following online, so they weren't looking for more followers, they wanted more foot traffic. And so from the bread pudding alone, this was about a 2-week campaign. They got $2,000 in sales from the bread pudding alone. So they definitely got a lot more from the other items that were a part of it because 150 people completed the full 3 stamps. So that just goes to show that they got a lot of foot traffic in. People were coming in multiple times in order to fill out their punch card so that they can enter the win the giveaway. So this is just a takeaway from this strategy was just trying to be creative, try something new. We have never done anything like this, and this was one I actually did as a joint campaign with another social media strategist. So we were collaborating, which I love because everything doesn't have to be a competition. I was able to bring in somebody else. She does her own thing as well, but we came together, both had an idea, and we executed this campaign together. So it was really, really fun. Now moving on to some of my retainer clients. So Richards Honda is a dealership here in Baton Rouge on Millerville. So I don't know if y'all remember that video where it's like, where the money reside, you ever saw that video? Okay, so he worked there and they went viral, and it wasn't until that moment that the owners were like, oh, social media is kind of like, it could really pop off your business. And so they reached out to me and they were like, we want to reach a younger audience. Like, we are fine with you doing whatever. I mean, that was music to my ears because I'm like, thank you, because I don't like having reins when I'm trying to be creative. And so I made them they had a TikTok account. I think they had like 200 followers at the time. So in a few weeks in March will be 1 year since I've been working with them. So now they have about 8,000 followers right now. And literally, I mean, I think the page is really fun. Most of the content has nothing to do with cars. It's just truly showing their personality because they wanted to show that they have different personalities that are working there so that you could be like, oh, I want to work with Eddie because I like the way he jigged. Like, it really doesn't have to be that deep. And for me personally, I'm not a big car person, which I think benefited with them because I'm not here to post all the APR, MPH, whatever acronyms they use with cars. If you want to do that, you can Google it, or you can call the salesman, or you can find that information themselves. They already pay so much doing all the ads about the car. So the TikTok and Instagram should be a lot more fun, a lot more entertaining, and showing more of the day-to-day life and personality of the page. So they've had a few viral moments, like this video got 1 million views, that one got 5 million views, and the first one got 2 million views. 2 of them actually are kind of correlated. I was asking them, what's your monthly car payment? And I mean, y'all, that caused so much discourse. People were so upset, like, how are you paying this much? And that is truly, it was intentional. I knew people were gonna argue. They're gonna say that you're wasting money, you're doing this. And I mean, it's a little bit of rage baiting, right? Like, they're gonna argue in the comments. They argue in the comments, more things being pushed. So that is kind of like what happened with these things. But even with the lock screen video, that one was just completely random. I was like, oh, what's your lock screen? Like, that's not something you think about, but for some reason, I think the internet is just really nosy. So I kid you not, you'll see comments of like, what was his Reddit notifications? Or who was that in their background photo? Like, they were just that curious about what their photo was. Or even like with Brandon, the first guy, his screen was black. So there was people on there like, how do you not have a picture on there? That's weird. Like what is it? And so it was just really cool because it almost still showed a personality of each of the employees because your lock screen kind of says a lot about you, which is what I learned. So this is just a perfect example of using social media to just build a brand personality. I really get inspired from apps like Duolingo. As we know, they hardly even talk about it being a language app. They just do everything but that. But we know of Duolingo, and we know that it's an app where you can learn a language. So same thing with this. There's no point in me posting every day, buy a car. Like, hopefully at some point, maybe in a year or two, y'all decide like, I need to buy a car, and you remember that Alvin was doing a poor dancing thing, and you're like, you know what, he seems pretty cool. I want to buy a car from him. So that's Rich's Honda. Next client is ZZ's Kitchen and Cocktails. They are in the Overpass. So with this one, the strategy behind this post, I would say what was important is the title and adding in location to stuff. So of course with food content for me, in my free time, I do post like food reviews and stuff. So I feel like food is kind of easier to sell and make content of, because if it looks good, it kind of gets shared easily. But what was important about this is that they just launched it and they were really wanting to reach a local audience. So it was important for me to add in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You can get an espresso flight and a steak for like one price or whatever the special was at the time. And so for this one, it got over 100,000 views, almost 200,000 views. And for some people, like within my industry, they would say that's small, but it was very niched and we had a really local audience, so that now a lot of people were coming in and were like, oh, I saw this reel, I want to get this espresso flight. So sometimes it's not always about getting a million views. It's like, can you hit your direct audience? And so for this one, I feel like it really did good with just adding Baton Rouge. It seems simple, but a lot of people were in the comments like, oh, I didn't know this was Baton Rouge. Like I normally would see something and like it and keep swiping. So it made them stop scrolling to be like, oh, I can actually go and get this. It looks really good. So that was a really good one. And then they gained 1,400 followers from that reel alone. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, cool. Earlapalooza. So this one was a fun one. Uncle Earl's, which is a bar on Perkins. I don't know how old y'all are, but that doesn't matter. Anyway, so Earlapalooza, what was I really like about this campaign and this strategy specifically, it was a great lesson to show that you can sometimes make something out of nothing. So normally if I would have been on the team early on and was helping with the marketing, I would have gotten a lot of content, a lot of UGC stuff during the event so that we can use it next year for FOMO and all of the things. Unfortunately, I came in like 3 months before this and they gave me what they had, which was like 2 recap videos from the past 2 years. And after auditing their page, I saw that they had reposted that video at least 5 times. It was getting really stale. I was like, okay, I don't want to post the recap video again. So what I did actually is that this is a video that it was also filmed in horizontal, so I trimmed it to be vertical, pulled out certain clips that was the most like engaging and hype, and also added in like the logo and the text of saying, this is the biggest St. Patrick's Day parade party. Are you ready? You know, put a really hype song in the background and enough to where it can just draw you in. And you're like, oh, okay, what's going on here? Another cool thing and another specific thing was using the tools that Instagram or the app that you're posting on has. So for Instagram, we all know that they have close friends. A lot of businesses don't really use it that often, but the client came in and they said they really wanted to generate hype and FOMO. And I was like, you know what, why don't we use the close friends feature? Because they always do this dramatic lineup and they're like, oh, we're not gonna announce it until a certain date. So in the caption, all I literally put was comment, Clover emoji will add you to the close friends. You'll know exactly who's headlining first. You'll be able to buy tickets before anyone else. And that got 400 different comments of everyone being like, I want to be on the close friends. The only con with that is that it takes a long time to add that many people to your close friends, as well as Instagram flagging, thinking that we were like spamming people. But there were so many DMs saying like, am I on the close friends? I didn't see the story. Like, who's the lineup? Who's dropping? And so that was such a good tool and strategy to add versus just saying like, hey, stay tuned or turn on your notifications. It incited people to want to be included in this exclusive bubble, to know what was happening first. And again, comments, more comments, it generated more and it pushed it to new people. So that was a really good strategy we did for this reel. And they did end up selling a lot more tickets in 2024 than the past 2 previous years. Okay, so now Crafted Nibbles. So this one I'm really excited to share because it is actively going on. I literally was updating stuff on here today because we had a really good pop in their socials. But Crafted Nibbles is owned by mother-daughter duo Valencia and Michelle. And so when they reached out to me in, I want to say July, August of 2024, they were saying that they were opening the first ever like build your own charcuterie cheese box. So you can literally go there, it's like Subway, and you can make your own box. And they were like, we're opening this, but it's literally just me and my mom. We are only a team of 2 and we're trying to open this up. We want someone we can trust to handle the social media, and we want it done nicely. We want it done professionally. So I was like, easy enough. And when they explained the concept, I was like, oh, well, that's gonna sell easily if you know how to market it right. So One of the important things, of course, looking at their socials, they had a good footing already. They were very active. They showed their personality a lot already on their page, and they had about 3,900 followers, almost 4,000 followers. So they already were at a pretty good spot. It wasn't like they were starting at zero. But another thing that was important with this one was that I was looking at the market for Baton Rouge. So whether y'all have been here or if you know, the thing about Baton Rouge is that when something opens, it'll pop off that first month and then it'll just be dead after. Like they get a lot of hype and then it just falls flat. It never fails. It doesn't matter if it's the coolest thing ever. You have got to be able to ride on that wave or, you know, you'll get left behind. And that's why sometimes we see places that might seem really cool or we love, but they close because you can't just go off of hype alone. So I told them like, hey, you're gonna open up, you're gonna do really well, but we need to make sure that we win over Baton Rouge and win over your community first so that it can be a long-term success. Because again, charcuterie and cheese, it's not a quick, you know, it's not a cheap thing. You know, it's an investment. It's a little bit on the pricier end as far as like food. It's not like you can get it for $5. So that was also important too, that how are we gonna be able to get people to come and not see it as just a destination stop? Because in order to thrive, you need to get locals. You need to have loyal, you know, regular customers. So how are we gonna convince people to come and pay $30 to get, you know, a charcuterie box every week or something? So these were all things that we're going across and thinking of. And so what I ended up coming up with was really documenting their journey as they were building the restaurant. So it's on Perkins in College, right next to that McDonald's. So I did a series called Behind the Cheese. So instead of behind the scenes, it was behind the cheese, our storefront journey. And literally it was episodes of like episode 1, this is the vision for it. This is episode 2, like just kind of walking people through the journey of building it on their own way, because they've always been transparent with their audience. And it also was a great opportunity not only to just win people over, because now you're gonna feel like you were a part of it, you saw it from the beginning, but it showed a lot of personality. Like in the second reel, Miss Valencia, she just literally, it didn't matter what vendor it was, she was like, I wanna put my own touch on this so that I know that I helped build my, you know, first storefront. And so we recorded her doing all of these little things. It's really dumb, but it's pretty funny because it has moments of like, Michelle being like, oh my gosh, she's such a mom. And you're just showing that dynamic between the two of them. They're really funny in person, honestly, too. And then of course, getting closer to the grand opening date, doing more quick, snappy content like them holding the sign on the side of the building saying we're coming December 13th, doing a countdown, seven days until you can build your own cheese box in Baton Rouge. Like, same thing with Zzz's, adding in that location. Like you can do this in Louisiana, you can do this in Baton Rouge, so that when people see it, they know that it's here. As we know, unfortunately, Baton Rouge doesn't always have the coolest concepts, or it might just seem like something that's at a bigger city. So that's why it was really important to add in those locations. And the grand opening was such a great hit. Now, we did have our viral moment. So on February 4th, what is that, last week, this video went viral. So it got 1.3 million views on Instagram, and it's still actively climbing. I screenshotted this 2 hours before I got here. And this video was literally just, I was already there getting content, and a customer came in and I was like, you know what, can I mic you up and just record you getting your box? Like, I want people to know what it is like when you come through there, because paying attention to the comments or the DMs they were getting, a lot of people thought it was like only to get a board or only to get these things. So they didn't quite grasp the Subway quick concept, build your own. So I was like, well, let's just record it while they're making their box. And so that's literally what the video is. And she's genuinely having a conversation saying like, oh, if you like these flavors, you should try this cheese, you should try that one. And it did really, really, really well. Same thing with that. I think in the beginning, I also added in like, oh, you went to the first build your own cheese box in Baton Rouge. Like those certain words really do matter, as well as even add in the captions on there. A lot of times people are scrolling silently, so you want to add in context. It didn't matter if they didn't have the sound on or they did, they would be able to watch that reel and know what's happening and still be engaged with it. And so I also think too, she mispronounced something in there. I didn't realize until I posted it, but again, caused discourse. People are in the comments, that's not how you pronounce Calabrian or however, whatever it is. It doesn't matter, but it made them comment, right? And they were engaging in all of the content. And this one also they got 8,000 followers from that reel alone. So they're sitting at about 16K right now, which is honestly very huge considering that the first post I made for them went out in September, And they were a short-term client. I was only working with them through the grand opening, but after they opened in December, they were like, okay, well, honestly, you know we can't do this. And I was like, I know. So now they are a retainer client. And so this was such a really good touch to add in and an extra pop. So they've gotten so many different comments, but the beauty of social media and the beauty of strategy, it's not just about going viral. It's what you do after going viral that really makes a difference. And so remember all of those videos in that series of like, oh, this is what it was like building this. Help us choose the paint colors. Those might not have gotten hundreds and thousands of views, but the people that were locked in from the beginning are now your loyal base. So when we had comments in here, this video, I was responding to a comment and they were like, do they really fill it up like this? Which, again, I can understand people being skeptical. Places jazz things up to make it look nice online, and they don't really give you that. So I responded to it. I was like, yeah, every single time, this is how this is. It doesn't matter if you come in once, twice, you're gonna get the same quality service, you know, like I mentioned in the caption. And all of the comments were those people who were there since the beginning saying, oh yeah, no, I've been going here like this. These are my people. They are always doing this. You built that audience and that foundation to where when you have these viral moments and these new people are coming in, they can see like, oh, they have 50 people commenting saying that it's great. You know, I'm going to trust this other person than the brand itself saying like, oh yeah, we'll do that because, you know, again, people are skeptical. Another post that was important to do after them going viral was this one, reintroducing themselves. Because again, paying attention to the comments, a lot of people were asking, oh, who owns this? Is this actually woman owned? Is it actually this? And so reintroduced them saying, hey, we went viral. We are the owners. Michelle, Valencia, we're a mother-daughter duo. They explained their message again. And then I added a CTA at the end, a call to action, and said, oh, comment the cheese emoji if you've been here since day one. Again, all of those people that you built up with those different series and more of that foundational content are now in there like, yeah, I've been enjoying y'all since 2021. I've been liking y'all since this. I've been doing all of that so that now that they're getting all these new followers and, you know, when you follow someone, a lot of their old content comes up on your timeline, they're going to see all of these things already because I know they have plans to expand. They don't want to just be in Baton Rouge. So now imagine if somebody followed now and then they decide to open up in Atlanta and they can say like, oh, I've been following them since this and all of the people have always been invested with them, you know, like that. Those are really important things to do. And that's all part of the strategy as well. Some examples of the community engagement. Oh, to go back, I did also intentionally pick this comment because it had a typo in it. And so the grammar keyboard warriors were like, that you actually meant fill. It's not full, it's fill. Whatever. But they were commenting, again, it caused discourse. It was great. Like it's really amazing to see how much really ties in behind the scenes in order to get some of these moments. And it's not, again, just about going viral because, you know, I've gone viral maybe on my own personal pages and for other brands. But again, for someone that's local or depending on what your company's goals are, you are going to want your followers to become regulars or to become customers. You want those impressions to become income because there's a lot of people who can get views and their bank account can't match that. Versus they could be like, oh, this went viral and then we got 50% of the people came in and actually bought it. Like that is what's more important. You're making content that is going to get you sales and actually boost your revenue. So engaging with the community, again, that is so important. Don't leave people hanging. Sometimes answering those questions not only builds trust, but it allows you to control the narrative so it doesn't get out of control. So we had somebody ask, how much is this? So I responded with the 3 different sizes and prices. And so now you have people saying like, oh, these are great prices. I'd pay $35 for that. Oh, this is great. Come to this city, come to that city. And of course, with prices that will cause, again, discourse. So there were people in there saying like, why would you pay this for cheese? Who's going to buy cheese for this? And all of those people that were already rallying behind them were like, I would pay for it. You've never heard of a cheese box. You never heard of a picnic. And they're like getting sassy with them without us having to do anything. I love that. So again, more comments, more people already supporting us. Same thing with this. Oh, love this idea. It would be perfect if you served wine. They are working on their liquor license. I realized there's a typo in there. I'm surprised no one checked me on it yet, but I responded to say, oh, good thing we're working on our liquor license. Now we have 300 people that liked it that are going to be anticipating growth within that business that they're going to now offer wine with their cheese boxes. Another thing, using the tool within the app, I added the poll, which I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I was like, thank the Lord I added the poll. I almost didn't add it, but I threw it in there because I wanted to see what people were thinking and how many people were regulars that were watching the videos, how many people were new to it. So I added the poll and added those 3 options. And so it got 5,000 responses. Of course, most of them have never heard of the concept because it did go viral. And then another example of a comment we responded to, they were asking like, why do you have vegan cheese there? If it's only a few and it's prepackaged, like you can make your own vegan cheese. And so this one, the owner herself actually responded, which I'm glad, because I do normally coach my clients like, hey, you should respond, or no, we need to respond to this. This is a good moment to establish your brand rapport and your trust with your online audience. But she responded and said like, oh, we like to support other businesses like Rebel Cheese, which is the name of the company that makes the vegan cheese. It's a woman-owned business, and that has been always one of the things they value is supporting other businesses or supporting other women. And so they're like, no, we have no problem using a brand and outsourcing that because they do that well. And that is what our brand is about, is supporting others. And literally everybody's in there like, oh, I love that. Like, that is so awesome. That is so cool. Like, that is all just really important things. Okay, so the reason that that's important, so going back to just all the different types of content that we made, imagine if since September till now, every single post was, come on in, we close at 2. 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 Come on, look, y'all already zoning out, like, okay, we get it. Y'all, we close at 2, you want us to come in, that's fine. That is literally how people feel when they're scrolling and you're constantly posting, buy this, buy this, buy this. You probably have some brands that y'all maybe unfollowed because you're like, okay, you're beating a dead horse, or it's boring, or you're just tired of seeing that same post every single day versus, okay, now you want us to come in, why? Well, now I could say, well, I want to go to Crafted Nibbles because it's a mother-daughter owned business and they're a fun duo. They remind me of my mom. Or, oh, they're really big about supporting local. They have a lot of local brands there. I want to be able to support my local economy. Or this is just a cool concept. Like, because of all these other posts that we did that were foundational, they might not have gone viral, but they still make an impact to where if the day comes, you're like, oh, well, you know what? I do want a cheese box. Like, you have multiple reasons why you're wanting to invest in this business. And you're not bored when you're following on there because, again, we want to make content that's going to stop people from scrolling. So some key takeaways. Success comes from being very intentional, not posting randomly. I always say this to clients, whoever I talk to, I genuinely see social media branding and strategy as a puzzle. So you know when y'all get a puzzle, you have the front of the box, you know what the image looks like. So you have a general idea of like where to put the pieces at. But imagine if somebody dumped a 1,000-piece puzzle in your lap and just told you to make it. 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna know what the image even is until you're like maybe 50% of the way, 80% of the way there, and then you're like, oh, this is what I'm putting together. That is what your audience is like. They don't have that full picture, but you're using those posts to build and put the pieces down. Every single post you make is adding to that big full picture. So you have to realize like you can't just put all the corner pieces of a puzzle and expect them to get the message. No, you have to, guide them through that. So you have to be really intentional. Every single post I make on whether it's my personal page or for my client, has a purpose. It is very intentional. Whether it got 1 million likes or not, I promise you it had an intention and it would have probably converted somebody, whether it was instantly or down the line. And then being fresh to new approaches. What worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. That is so true. And literally with every client that I showed y'all today, those were all different styles. They have never done content like that. We were just throwing spaghetti at the wall, but also trying something new. And sometimes, I've had clients kind of be like, well, this is how we do this. This is how it works. And I'm like, well, that is not why you hired me. You hired us to be a strategist. You hired us because you want to reach these goals and you're not able to hit them by yourself. So you need to come in and have fresh ideas, and social media is always evolving. You don't know what app is going to be here today and tomorrow. Yes, I'm a little triggered about the TikTok thing, but you just don't know what's going to happen and it's constantly evolving. So you can't just be stagnant. You have to be willing to adapt and learn and continue to just try different things to see what's going to get you closer to the goals that you have set. And then, of course, to me, at the end of the day, having a strong foundation and strategy and community, putting your community first will always win in the long run. It does not fail. Like, there's probably thousands of viral moments y'all have seen online, but you probably couldn't even repeat the name of their @ name if somebody asked you. You'll be like, oh, there's a video of this cat that did this, versus maybe a set cat community, and you're like, oh my gosh, I love this cat. They have this, they have that. Community-driven content will always win in the long run. So those are some of my key takeaways. Please feel free to follow me and keep in touch. This is my business page at the top and my personal account. And yeah, thank you so much. I don't know if y'all have any questions or feedback. Yes.
So say you're with a client, how far along do you usually plan for like posts, like 2 weeks or?
Yeah, I personally like to do within like a month, like a general plan of like monthly content. But it is flexible because, for example, Crafted Nibbles, we had a plan of like, oh, we'll post about this day. But when that video went viral, I'm like, okay, that shifts everything. And I always tell all of them that. I'm like, in the moment that you have your viral moment, I truly believe it's not about if it'll happen, it's just when. When it happens, we need to be ready. And so when, we started seeing the video get traction, I was like, okay, no, I need to go ahead and add these posts. I need to shift the schedule around. So I do try to have a month set out already, but it's also just staying in tune with the trends. Sometimes you might have to pivot and switch it up, but I do like to do it by the month.
And do you recommend anything besides CapCut or any like video editing?
I like to use InShot. It's not as detailed as CapCut, but there's another one I just started trying. I think it's VN Video or VN app or something like that. That's kind of similar to CapCut. But yeah, I really like using InShot, and then whether adding text in, I might import text myself, but lately I've been doing a lot more of the text within the app just for SEO so that the algorithm knows what the video's about. But if you do use text outside of the app for like aesthetic reasons, I like to kind of type out what the video's saying, and then I make the text really small and then hide it at the bottom so that the algorithm at least can kind of have an idea of like, oh, this is what the video's about. Yes.
Do you work on like any like longer form content?
No, I haven't worked on any long form content with any of my clients so far. I think it's just because short form is really like all the craze right now, but I'm not against it. So whenever that time comes, I definitely would be more than happy to work with them on that. But so far, all of them have been like, we need Instagram and TikTok. I did just sign a client who's been working more with LinkedIn, so I've been doing a lot more LinkedIn strategy. So no one for YouTube yet. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah.
Do the outlets that you use for the like social media outlets and stuff, do they just come to you, or is it more like a trial and error type of thing? Or each company different?
When you say outlets, what do you mean? Like
TikTok, X, like whatever the company uses, like do you kind of based off of what they originally do, or is it more like trial and error, seeing what works?
Yeah, a little bit of both. So I do always, whenever I add in a client, I do a deep audit of their page and just seeing literally, a SWOT analysis, see what their strengths are, their weaknesses, where they could do better, what could potentially be a problem. So for example, with Crafted Nibbles, I was like, what they do well is that they're active. That is an important thing. I'm not coming to a dead page because coming into a page that has been posted on, you kind of have to revive it before you can really see some growth. But for example, for Crafted Nibbles though, I was like, a concern might be that charcuterie is maybe a saturated business, like how are you gonna stand out from these things? So a lot of them, they do kind of tell me what apps and platforms they like to use and whatever they wanna focus on. So for the dealership, they were like, oh, we wanna reach a younger audience, we wanna do more fun stuff. I was like, well, then we definitely need to try TikTok because I think the algorithm is a lot different there and you'll be able to see a little bit more of a pop there than Instagram. So that's where that came in, and literally for all of them, thankfully I do have clients that are more than happy to try new stuff. Some of them do question it. They're kind of like, I don't understand what this is for, and I'm just like, shh, don't question it, just trust me. But yeah, it really is trial and error, especially in the first 3 months. I call their 3 months like their that trial area of the crab season where that's the best time to try something new. So trying different formats, trying different styles. If there was a post that did well for them, I'll just take it and repurpose it. Like if it was a graphic, let's make it to a reel, or if it was a reel, let's try making it into a carousel and just see how their audience responds. And then once I kind of see where the patterns are, then we'll pull the good pieces and then double down on it and do a fleshed out plan from there. Yes.
I was wondering, do you go pick your own clients, or do you look at companies' SEOs and then reach out to them?
Thankfully, I've gotten all my clients from word of mouth, but lately I do have them fill out an inquiry form just to see what their goals are because, because of examples like this, or when I do presentations, or if I post like client successes, there are people that come in and they're like, okay, I want you to make me go viral. And I'm like, I genuinely cannot guarantee that. I can feel very, very confident that it'll happen. You know, like, I kid you not, I need to start recording my meetings because my clients were like, you said this on the call. And I'm like, I know, I'm kind of a genius. But it's really hard sometimes. I used to just take anybody, and I remember having a lot of conflict and issues with people that are like, okay, well, we've been doing this for 3 weeks or 1 month. Why hasn't anything gone viral? Or they'll be like, we only got 10 likes on this. And I'm like, well, your old post only got 2. Like, growth is still growth to me. At the end of the day, before you can get to 1 million followers, you need to have 1, and then another one, and then another one. So it is a slow burn, especially with organic social. It is a slow burn, but it's possible. Like, it can really transform your business. So now I just get that inquiry form, I see where they're at, and then I will just be transparent with them if I feel like they're ready for it. Because at the same time too, I don't want them to waste their money. I've had clients before that I felt like maybe didn't see the return on their investment because either they didn't have their business in order, because if their messaging isn't clear, there's not much I can do there. I can't decide the things for them. And I always say I'm a good tool for amplifying. If you have a good message and a good product, but you need help getting it to the masses, that is what I want to do. That's what my company's here to help you amplify it. But with people that are maybe confused and they keep changing the stuff, they end up wasting a lot of money there. So whenever I feel like they are like that, I'll just kind of be transparent and say like, hey, I don't think this is going to be a good fit right now. And, you know, maybe we can circle back, or maybe we can start with this smaller thing, and then we can think about moving up to like a bigger package. Yes.
How do you manage being consistent with your own social media and the things that you do, as well as having to manage other people's pages?
Yeah, so I actually view my own personal page as a client, to be honest. So I am, it's always interesting because a lot of people think I do my personal page full time, and I'm like, that does not pay my bills yet. It's my business. But in the beginning, it was really hard because I would be working on all the client stuff literally from like 8 to 5 or 6, and then I wouldn't start on my personal content until maybe 8 o'clock, and that's when I would edit, you know, my food videos and post them. But I just viewed my own personal page as if it was a client. I'm like, I got to make sure I get this post out, even if I'm tired, or even if maybe I'm too tired to do a voiceover. Let me just use a trending song so it cuts down editing time. It really does come into being disciplined. I just had reached a point where I just didn't want to have any excuses. This also does tie into the time when I couldn't get hired. The bills were due like yesterday. So I was like, I have to make this work. So I got really disciplined during that season too, to where I was like, I'm just going to show up and post. And honestly, I almost added my own personal brand as for a strategy. But before, when I couldn't get any clients, I was like, my little sister, we're 11 years apart. She humbled me. She was like, how are you gonna grow people's accounts and you don't even have 1,000 followers? And I was like, oh my gosh, like that is so me. But it was the push I needed, because I was like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. You're right. Like, why? I was like, I'm gonna show you. Like, I'm gonna show you that I can grow my own page. And so I applied literally the same thing I'm doing with all these clients. I did the same thing. Like, in the beginning, I didn't know what I wanted to post about, so I just posted any and everything. Noticed which videos got the most traction and fine-tuned it. That's when I really got deep into posting about food. And but at that point, I also recognized that there are a lot of food creators and a lot of people that make food, and you might not recognize their brand. So that's why I started doing like, oh, hey, BR Talk or Baton Rouge TikTok, and I started using that intro and making it into like an actual brand, so that now it didn't matter if someone, you know, it's funny that like you'll hear a video and someone's like, oh, that's BR Talks. Like, it added that, and that was a strategy too. Like, oh, let me add in an actual name to what this concept is. And this is, all of those videos under BR Talk are gonna be positively talking about Baton Rouge, or positively sharing where you can eat or what you can do. And so that is a perfect example of like, okay, I'm gonna make something out of these viral moments, because food will always go viral. It does not fail. Like, it's Baton Rouge. Y'all could post something today, it'll probably go viral, but are they gonna remember you at the end of the day? So again, I just viewed it as a client, and I was like, I'm gonna make sure that I get the post out no matter what, which, speaking of, I need to go do that tonight. I'm gonna go edit and make sure I get a post out tonight. But that is literally how I stay consistent. I don't see it as an optional thing. Yes?
With all of your clients,
Mm-hmm.
you usually include yourself. What is that creative process like? I remember you saying you kind of plan your content or your schedule on Monday. Are you also doing creative thinking while you're planning the schedule, or is it like a case by case?
I would say it's a mix of both. So while I do plan a month at a time, there is still always the overarching plan, which is why I do like my clients to be more into longer contracts, like 6 to 12 months and so on. So that's where doing the questionnaire comes in. And if they're like, oh, short-term goals, we want people to know that we're open, but then long-term, they want to open a second location. Okay, so now it's less about just getting people in, and we need to be able to build a loyal brand. And so I am constantly thinking overarching, like, these are some of the goals long-term. How are we going to be able to build this puzzle? But month to month, I'm gonna be honest, it really is just kind of case by case, because I'm looking at what's trending, what people might be interested in. Sometimes old videos start picking up traction randomly. So, but I do use like content pillars. So no, right now everyone's like, oh, don't use pillars. I call them pillars, but it's more like, I guess, categories. So I call them like my Quirky Creative Core 4. And so I always post about something that's gonna build their brand rapport. Like if it's a post where it's like, you know what, I respect them, or you know what, I really like them. There's always going to be some type of content that does that. There's always going to be something that's educating, or where you can learn like, oh, did you know that we get our cheeses from this local farmer? Oh, the viewer learned something new. So that's that educational one. And then I have the entertaining one. So that's where it's like the viral content, the stuff that's real fun, that's snappy, that's more entertaining, the memes, stuff like that. And then I have promotional, which is genuinely just saying like, oh, this is the product, or we're running a special. So those are the 4 core things I always keep in mind when I'm making their content, and I try to do a good mix of all of them. But it really does depend on what's going on in the month, like what the goal is, what the focus is. So like with all these holidays coming up, a lot of them are more focused on like, oh, we need to get people to sign up for this or sign up for that. So we might lean a little bit more into promotional, or even mixing the two, like we're educating you so that you can buy it. So I would say that's like, those are the 4 things I keep in mind whenever I'm doing their monthly content, but still thinking of the overarching, like what are their long-term goals? What do they want people to do? I can give you an example for my personal page. I made it my name because I didn't want to be tied to food, because again, I'm just so fickle. I will do something for a while, then I'm like, okay, I'm tired of this. I want to do something else. So that's why I was like, I'm gonna just make it my name. But I know a lot of people like BR Talk and the food, and I see the impact that it has. So, you know, last year I spent a lot of time posting food, but then I would also maybe post like, oh, get ready with me to go eat at this restaurant, and just slowly doing stuff to where if I decided to just post more about clothes or makeup, it wouldn't be weird, because they're like, oh yeah, she did always post like her makeup before going to eat out at this place or whatever. So that is actually a strategy I did for myself last year, and it was a year-long thing of feeding in new styles of content, so that whenever I did 2 separate pages, so I have a separate one now for BR Talk, people are like, oh, well, I still like to follow her because, you know, I learned that she likes this thing, or I learned that she's from here, or all of those things. So I hope that answered the question. I know I kind of went long-winded. Yes.
I'm curious, just kind of like piggybacking off those last questions.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like you do have like a very vivid strategy of how to make a video go viral, or how to make a community more loyal to a brand. So my question is like, for us, or I guess for me, since I'm the one asking the question, like, how would you go, like what would your process be if you were trying to learn the process of making something go viral, like understanding the strategy of that?
I would ask yourself a question. So anytime, no matter what client it is, I would ask and say, would I actually watch this? This is what I just hired my first part-time person last year, and so I've been learning to see how do I make my brain into like words for people to understand it. And, you know, let's say she edits a video, I'll watch it and I'll be like, you know, would you genuinely stop scrolling to watch this video? Is it really that interesting? And that's the difference of posting intentionally versus just posting the post. Because someone could say like, oh, okay, I posted like this quick thing, like here, mommy's coming to speak at AdFed, versus like, oh, like we got a video of her coming in with this cool hook, and it made someone stop and think like, oh wait, I recognize her intro, like, hey, BR Talk, you know, I'm gonna be here. That's something that's a little bit different. So, sorry, but ask yourself that question. Is this something that would make me stop scrolling? Because we have to be realistic. Social media, and this is what a lot of mistakes that businesses make too. They post for what they like and what they want. And it's not about you. It's not. You have to think about the followers. Like a lot of y'all are coming out of class. You're going on there to be entertained or to decompress from a long day. So think about the content that makes you stop scrolling and think about how you can apply that. So that is kind of one question I always ask. And you'd be surprised how simple the smallest thing could be. So she edited a video for ZZ's and I was like, hey, you know, we're on this clip a little too long. Like it was interesting the first 3 seconds, but then I got bored. You know, like those are things to pay attention to. Like oh, did you keep scrolling and did it cut to different stuff? So I would say that's probably the core of it. And then of course that's just paying attention to like, oh, what video got a comment, which one got a share, which one even got a like on a story. Like those are things that are important. They seem minor, but they help you figure out how to fine tune the type of content you need to do. And so that's how I've been able to actively be able to grow these accounts. So aside from my personal, like the Craft and Nibbles, they have their 16,000. Sweet Society has 10K on TikTok and then the 20K on Instagram. And then the first person I ever grew it for was a lactician. And so one of the things that was common with that was like, oh, I always was paying attention to what the audience wants. You need to give them what they want. So that is probably the best advice I can give there. All right. Yes.
How do you come up with like ideas for like doing when you did like the series about like making the cheese shop and like the actual like building of it itself? How do you like come up with those ideas? Because like like that's genius. Because it's like now I'm gonna Google cheese shop BR update and like see, oh, have they put the sign in or something like that? Like how do you where you get your ideas for like this would be a good type of content to make for this?
Honestly, there's a lot of beauty in brain dumping. I've had a lot of random long nights where I'm just pumping out ideas, and honestly, ChatGPT is your friend. It's a good tool when you're using it to, at least I use it to really organize my thoughts, because there's a lot going on in here, and I can say like, I know I want to do a series because that's going to help people buy in over time. I know I want it to be catchy and cute. I know this is the goal, but then I'm like, I don't really know how to tie that all in together. I will literally put in a brain dump and I'll let chat kind of help me organize it, and I'll pull things here and there. But yeah, it's really, that's the beauty. That's where the audit comes in a lot too. Like for Crafted Nibbles, I noticed that a lot of people liked them as people, and there was an old comment, and this is a lot of the part that's done silently, and they might think like, oh, just hurry up and post. And it's like, no, I spend a lot of time. I will go through every single comment. I'll go to posts that are 3 years old, and they'll have a comment like, oh, she has such a nice voice, she should do podcasts, or, and even though that's a passing comment, now it's like, oh, well, they might do well if they're doing videos talking and saying, hey, this is the update, because now I know people think her voice sounds nice. Like those are all small things to tie into. So that audit period is really important to really deep dive and see what's interesting, like what makes their audience tick. And so with that, and then again, just finding inspiration and brainstorming and then reading over their questionnaire, because sometimes it doesn't always come to me right away. It might be weeks, or it might even be the day before until I'm like, oh, finally I got it. So I would say give yourself grace, like, especially when it comes to being creative. There's no set like system sometimes. Like being creative is fluid. So those are kind of the systems I use to help myself maybe think of ideas and content, but I just really sit on it. And that's why when I onboard people, I usually try to have 3 weeks to where I can give myself time to spend every day looking, doing the audit, trying out ideas, seeing what might work, what might not work. And then once I'm comfortable, we'll give it a try. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then we pivot. Yes.
So when you first started, how did you come up with the process? Like, did you have like listings of documents?
Yes, I did. I made some prices. So that one was kind of hard for me in the beginning because I didn't know what to charge. I think it also just goes down to confidence. So at the time, I wasn't super confident in myself. I was like, oh, I didn't study marketing at LSU. I did creative writing. I didn't feel like I had what it took. And then I was still kind of bummed from not getting a job. But when I shifted my mindset and realized that everything that I'm doing now, a lot of us already do it. Like I said, I mentioned early on, I ran a fan page. We were making memes for this boy band, and we were like, we want to make sure that we get the most retweets. We built a strategy we stayed up to date with the trends to make the funniest meme so that it can go viral. That was for fun, but literally that is what social media strategy is. And so when I realized that, I was like, well, technically, I guess I've had experience since middle school. It gave me a little confidence boost. But I remember my first pricing. I was charging $300 a month to do like a full blown. I would do the strategy, create the content, edit it, all of these things. It is not sustainable, by the way. That is not sustainable at all. But it was a good start for me to at least get my foot in the door and getting a lot confident. So, of course, looking into the market, doing market research, see what competitors are charging. But even still with my pricing, I would say I'm pretty sure for my industry, I'm a little bit more on the higher end for like organic social, only because I know that I'm very invested with the people that I work with. Everybody I've shown you, I have worked with them for years, multiple years. We are long-term people, and so my tagline for my business is actually, your success is my success. Like, I do not feel any joy until I know that they won. So if they're going viral, then I'm happy. If they're getting their sales, then I'm also happy. So it really just shows that you're not just getting someone who's charging you to, charge the highest package, but they're really invested. And so now, right now, my packages are starting more in like that 2,000 a month pricing, and that's for like full service. So I've definitely come a long way, and I don't think it's linear. I feel like every time I got a new client, I would sit and evaluate and think like, you know what, was that really worth the effort, or was that really worth the time invested? And as things continue to grow, you outsource. I might bring in a photographer if I want to make sure we have a certain look, because you can't do everything. I've tried it, it doesn't work. So when you start outsourcing, I'm like, oh wait, I was charging this, it made sense, but all of my money's gone because I had to pay other people and I didn't make a profit. So that's kind of where all of the things I've learned over the past few years is that just see where you start that you're comfortable with, a number that you have no problem saying into a room with a client, like, this is what I charge. They can't talk you down from that, and then go from there and you'll be able to grow. Yes.
Do you have a number where you cap for clients?
I do, actually. So as you can see in the bio, I put join our wait list. So I used to accept every and anybody until I realized that the quality of my work was going down very quickly, because it is a very labor intensive thing. Again, I think until you're actually in advertising and stuff, you don't realize how much is really done behind the scenes. And so I reached a point where I was like, okay, no, I'm gonna shift, and I guess I'll tell y'all my strategy for my business. I don't post often on there, so if y'all go follow it, it's not as cute and jazzy as all the other pages, but I started shifting. Instead of saying clients, I'm like, oh, join our client roster. Like, we keep a set amount of people so that we know that y'all are all getting the same amount of focus, not one person's feeling like this one got more because it's more cool. Because I have a client who works in HR. It's not as like jazzy as a cheese box, build your own Subway concept, but they're gonna still get the same amount of focus and attention and time as the others, because I've been able to, over the years, like tracking and seeing how much time it takes and how much I can genuinely give to these people, then that's how much I have. So I do cap it. Right now, I think I'm at about 15 people, which is still kind of pushing it for one person. But I like I said, I just hired someone last year, so she's kind of been helping with that workload so that I can focus on doing the strategy, and then things like, scheduling the post. Like, those are things that might take a few hours out every week, that instead of me doing it, she can help me with that, and then I can focus on strategy and adding in more clients and stuff. So yeah, I personally do have a cap. There are people who have upward to 30 plus clients. I just like my personal piece too. I like being able to do stuff. And again, as you can see, I have a personal brand too, so I also have to keep in mind that I need to have time to be able to go do collabs and stuff like that. So for me, I'm happy with capping it at a certain amount. I'm like, it pays the bills, I'm happy, I'm not stressed out, and then my clients are happy. So yep. Yes.
Did you have like a client where you just didn't meet the requirements? Like, a video just didn't blow?
Say it again.
Like, you work with a client, like a video didn't blow at all?
Yeah, I still have clients that are like that. And honestly, that's the beauty of where it comes into understanding their goals, because for some of them, it's not always about blowing up and going viral. It is just like, I want to make sure I have an online presence. I think one of the biggest things that a lot of businesses realized, especially when COVID happened, is that when everything shut down, everyone went to social media or went online to see what was going on. And there were restaurants that didn't even have, or maybe haven't posted in years, that if you went to their page, you're probably like, oh, maybe they're not open, they haven't posted in forever. So there are some people that genuinely just need an online presence. They see the value in that, but they're not necessarily looking to go viral. They want to focus on their business, and they could care less about social media. I've actually had clients or people reach out and say like, hey, I want to work with you, but I really don't want to go viral. Like, we're kind of at our max. So there's generally some people that aren't looking to go viral, and there's always the ugly side to going viral. Like I said, this is really good for Craft and Nibbles, but right now I'm actually going to work on their strategy to just make sure that like the content is still hitting Baton Rouge, because they still need to get those people in every month. It's cool that everyone in Atlanta and Dallas thinks it's cool, but they're not coming here to buy it. Not actively. So that is also just making sure like, okay, is the content still getting us to the goals that they want? They need to hit this much revenue, or they want to have these many bookings a month. So it's really more so about their goals. And at the end of the day, a business, genuinely their goal should be, it's usually about scaling or increasing their revenue or increasing it to where they're benefiting from it. And sometimes you don't really have to go viral to do that. You just need to reach the right audience. Yes.
Can you ever reach a point in your creative process where you kind of stuck, you're with the representative with the client?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you kind of get over that? You just kind of go back to the drawing board, you don't need to meet up all over again?
Mm-hmm.
See, like, where do we kind of go from?
Yeah, all the time, all the time. Honestly, I guess, and this is where the beauty of me doing creative writing came in, because, you know, when I was writing stories, I'd have writer's block. There would be moments where I'm like, I just can't think of anything at all. And so at that point, I would just step away from looking at their content or that industry altogether, because sometimes I could find inspiration through a completely separate thing, and it can be like, oh, you know what? Let me take this and then tweak it to fit with them. You know, they could, or they might have a competitor, but then it's like we can learn from, like I said, oh, Duolingo, I really like how they do their page. Let me apply it to a dealership. Those two don't really have anything in mind, but I gained inspiration from their account. And so whenever it's just feeling stuck, I would just say, give yourself a break. I mean, it's even the same as like when you have studying fatigue. You're not gonna gain from like forcing yourself to keep reading it. You're gonna need to step away, go watch a movie, read a book, you know, do something, and then I just come back to it. Or I might not even look at it for a day and come back. And that kind of goes back to the question, the answer I told you, like, you know, sometimes it might come the day before or 5 minutes before the meeting. It can be like that, but at the end of the day, when you know what you're talking about and you're confident in what you're doing, the timing of when those ideas come, it really shouldn't matter, because it's actively evolving. You're always gonna need something creative to do. So that is just some of the stuff I like to do. And even when I'm feeling good or I'm just scrolling, I might save stuff and I'm like, oh, this might be a good idea. I'll go look at old posts I've saved, or just looking at old content and just trying something new. Literally, I'm just always open to trying something new. I'm like, you know what, I don't know if this is gonna work, but let's do it. For example, Sweet Society, the owner used to always say like, oh, well, photos like this look the best, and like having green looks the good. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, but like the likes are kind of dwindling, so that doesn't really matter right now, what used to work. And I was watching a video of, it was like satisfying something. Like it was like the people cutting the cheese satisfying. Like it was such a random thing. And I was like, oh, I wonder if we should do that with ice cream. And so we recorded them piping the ice cream, and it came out so perfect. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna post it. Like I almost didn't post it because I was like, this is so dumb. It's an 8-second reel of them making ice cream, and it got 2 million views. And everybody was like, this is so satisfying. Like, oh my gosh, I wanna see more videos of y'all making ice cream. And I was, and I kid you not, the owner was like, is that all it took for us to go viral, was to just make some ice cream? Like we're doing all the works and getting the lighting right and trying to like hold this up because that's how things have worked. But sometimes it's genuinely just step away from it, look somewhere else. You might find inspiration in the industry that you probably didn't think of. So cool. Awesome, thank y'all.
Once a teacher